sound routine.
Hi, I'm Jarrett Sauer with Remax Roots, and today we're here with Sherrie Bloomfield with Integrity Home Mortgage. I've been using Sherrie for about 5 years now on loans for my clients, and I think Dad's been using her about 20 years now, so she's very experienced in the business, and she's here to kind of talk to us today about some tips and tricks for getting a mortgage. So you want to go ahead and maybe introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Sherrie Bloomfield with Integrity Home Mortgage, and thank you guys for having me out today. I appreciate it. Your office looks great, by the way.
Thank you.
You're looking, it looks very nice. I'm Sherrie with Integrity. I am a resident of Frederick County. I've been here practically my whole life. I have been in the mortgage business for 24 years this year, and I've worked for Integrity since 2006. So I love my job. I love getting to meet new people. I love working with people like you guys. It changes every day, and of course, right now we are in a changing market. Yes. So we thought, let's talk about some good tips for people.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
To make the process a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So people get into this process and maybe don't really know the do's and don'ts of getting a loan, or maybe there's something that they do that they don't understand maybe affect them negatively when they're trying to close on a house. So that's, like I said, that's why we brought Sherrie in today. So are there any kind of things you want to talk about to start off with?
I got my list here.
There we go. Okay.
First of all, I want to say that I know it can be an intimidating process, right?
Yes.
When we went to buy our first house, it literally, because we had real phones back then, it was scared to death to dial the phone, to pick it up and call and ask questions, because it was just terrifying.
Yes.
And you're just like, every day you're like, what's going on? What's going on? So I try really hard to keep people informed. So one of the things I want to say is, do not be afraid to ask questions during the whole process, whether it's to me or to you. If it's a loan program question, and what about why do you need this, or I just don't understand, just reach out and let us know. So a couple of things I wrote down to make the process a little easier is, first of all, there's some things that you probably should avoid, right? So if you're into the mortgage process, you probably should not quit your job. That's a big one. That's a big one. And trust me, we've had that happen. Just because you are approved doesn't mean that you can go and quit your job. You have to have the source of income to repay that payment.
Sure.
The other thing to avoid is, don't go out and get a big, huge purchase like a car or a truck or anything like that. Furniture is a huge one.
Yes.
I had a client one time that he was closing on Monday and it was Friday, and he calls me and I'm like, oh, here we go, right? So I answer my phone and I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, I just have a quick question. We're staying in the furniture store. Before he could get store out of his mouth, I was like, leave right now. Just leave, and can you wait till next week before you go and get the furniture?
So I've had that several times too. People are there, especially when we're walking through a house and they're like, oh yes, I want to go get this huge sofa to fit this living room. And I'm like, please talk to Sherrie first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, I get it, because they're excited. And when you're buying a house, you're so excited, it keeps you up at night. And if you're like me, I was like, what color am I going to paint this wall? What am I going to hang here? And, you just want to get it all done how you've been visualizing it. So I get that. Credit card debt. Don't go out and get any new credit cards for those potential purchases in the future. Prior to closing, they will do what's called a soft pull on your credit report. So we'll come back to you and ask, hey, look, there's a couple inquiries here. Did you inquire any new debt? So you just want to make sure you keep that clean. Another thing is, if we pull credit, things that we wouldn't see on your credit report is if you have alimony or child support. So it's really important to let us know if you have those, because we have to include that in with your debt to income ratio.
Sure. Well, that's a lot of good tips for maybe what to avoid or don't do in the process. Do you have any things maybe to do or that might benefit a client?
So I think the first thing you should do is talk to a lender.
Yes.
You want to know what you can afford. You want to know what all goes into the process. What are the underwriters looking for? And you also just want to make sure that you're on the right path for you or you and your family to be able to afford a home. You certainly don't want to go out and get house heartbroken, right? Where you're looking at a house for $400,000, but you can only really afford $250,000 or $300,000. You just want to make sure you get something, or get the pre-approval or pre-qualification to an amount that that you can handle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we always recommend getting pre-approved even before you go start looking at houses, because like you said, there's some beautiful houses out there. And if you're looking at something that maybe is out of your price range and you fall in love with it, and then you realize, you're at 500, beautiful house, and then you're only qualified for 250, well, that's going to be a big difference. And, people are, they're going to have very high expectations of a house. And then they're going to feel like maybe they're settling on something. It may ruin the whole process for them. So it's important to know what you're qualified for up front, and that way we can look at appropriate houses for you.
Yep. So talk to your lender first, and again, build that relationship to ask questions, to work together, and with the realtor too, like a big team to work together to make sure that we're all moving you forward to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see. Talk to your lender first. The one thing that I can say too is, so the process is, you come in, you get pre-qualified. You and I have a conversation. I put in your income, and I'm like, well, it looks like you can afford $250,000. That's pre-qualified, just a verbal conversation.
Right.
Pre-approved is when you actually supply the documentation to us. The file actually goes into underwriting. The underwriters review everything, and then they come back and say, okay, hey, look, they look great for 300. They've been officially pre-approved. If nothing changes, I think that makes you a stronger buyer when you go out into the market, because you'll have that pre-approval letter versus the pre-qualification letter. You got any questions with that or anything?
No. And I think, kind of going along with that, we had talked earlier too about getting your documents in a timely manner.
Absolutely.
And because your closing date is usually about 30 to 45 days, depending on your loan. But as part of the contract, we put in there for your financing contingency, usually about 21 to 24 days is when you have to have all your documents in place, and Sherrie has to give you the okay that you are approved for this loan. And if you don't get that in time, that can really change the outcome of where you're going. You may not be able to go to settlement at that point. So it is very important to have your documents.
Yeah, and I get it. I get everybody's busy, but when it comes to needing maybe an additional bank statement or an additional pay stub, if they can just get that over as quickly as possible, that helps keep everything on track. Yeah. And no screenshots, by the way.
Oh, yes. There's nothing worse than, getting a picture of a paper laying that's all crooked and everything, because we like to print stuff out and scan it and have for our records, and it just...
in a clear
make sure it's clear, and so it can be hard to read sometimes. So we do appreciate, scanned documents.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I think the other thing is, if you are thinking about buying a home, do not let the process scare you, because a lot of people have had credit issues in the past. I have when I was young. You just never know what life is going to throw at you, whether it's like a divorce or a bankruptcy, or you lose your job. Just don't let it scare you, because we can get you on the right path. Don't wonder what you can do, and there's no embarrassment at all, no judgment or anything like that. But just come and let's talk about it. If you can't buy for a year or 6 months,
Yeah,
absolutely. Another thing that I tell people is, if you're paying $1,000 in rent, and the new mortgage payment would be maybe $2,000, right? If you're scared to take that leap for now, take a few months and make that fake mortgage payment. So pay your $1,000 in your rent, and then take another $1,000 and put it into a separate account. So at the end of like 3 or 6 months, you'll have $3,000 or $6,000 saved. Right. But you'll know what that payment feels like without making that big commitment.
Sure, that's really good advice. And going back to what you said, we do recommend, even if you don't know where your credit stands, or you do know where your credit stands and you just don't think you can get a house right now, we do always suggest talking to Sherrie or another lender, because they can put you on the right path. If buying a home is what you really want to do long term, then she can really point you in the right direction and get you to achieve that goal. So
I mean, again, if you're just thinking about it, doesn't mean you have to jump on it today, but just get on the right path.
Absolutely. So that's great advice.
Thanks, sir.
I mean, any other tips or tricks, or is that covers all the bases?
I mean, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I think I kind of understand it, being in the business, working along with you. So, but like you said, first time home buyers especially, it is a lot, and it is a very intimidating process. But that's why we're here, to talk you through it and make it easier, and hopefully get you in the home that you want. So all right.
Call, text, or email, whatever.
Anytime. Especially, she loves getting texts at 12 o'clock at night. So
I don't know about that.
So, well, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, and we'll link all of her contact information in the description So if you do want to reach out to Sherrie or have questions about how to get started, I know she'd be glad to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, like, follow, and subscribe our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everybody.